It's time. Apple has to bring back the iPod Classic. The fate of the whole company might just be in the balance. Hey there, friends on YouTube. My name is Jason, sometimes known as the JTL. This is Painfully Honest Tech. Tech so honest it hurts. Thank you for being here today. I've got some stuff that I've been thinking about that I want to talk to you about, so let's just get into it. The iPod. When was the last time you thought about the iPod? Not the iPod Touch, but the real iPod. That chunky plastic and metal thing that you held all your music and played it back, and it didn't do anything else. It's been a while, I'm going to guess. I'm sure a lot of you have never actually used an iPod, and that's not your fault. You were born too late. But for those of us who do remember, let's think about the iPod and what it really meant again. Looking back, there are a lot of devices that could probably take the title of best Apple product ever. I mean, maybe it's the Apple II, maybe it's the iMac, maybe it's the iPhone. Probably others could be thrown into the mix, but to me, it's the iPod. Like I said, not that iPod Touch. That device might actually be the beginning of Apple's end when Apple started to get lazy and became a jack of all trades, master of none. The iPod was a simple thing, simple but revolutionary. It took something we'd been doing basically the same way for decades and reimagined how we did it, what the parameters were, so much so that the entire infrastructure around the music industry changed to fit this new paradigm. It wasn't much as a hard drive, a little bit of code, a screen, headphone jack, plug it in, you're listening to your tunes. But when it came to listening to music, it changed everything. Steve Jobs liked to talk about 1,000 songs in your pocket as if that was some sort of secret password to Valhalla or something. And in many ways, it kind of was. Before the iPod, you couldn't elegantly cart around your music. There were tapes and there were CDs and portable things that you used with those. And none of them, trust me, were perfect. Not by a long shot. I used to carry around like 64 CDs in a little sleeve case every day, along with a disc player. The iPod changed everything. It was when Apple was at its most Apple. There was something quintessentially Apple about the iPod, a little block that had all your records in it, simple design, profound shift in behavior. The beauty of the iPod Classic came in how it functioned in your life. It was a single-use device. You loaded albums onto it, charged it up, plugged in headphones, you were listening to music. There were no notifications popping in, no game that you could play while you listened, no phone calls were going to break through and interrupt your listening session. It was you and your music and your iPod, and that was it. We don't really have that anymore. We don't do that anymore. We multitask. Our phones multitask. And maybe along the way, we've lost something that was inherent in single-use devices that needs to come back. Most of you are saying, but you can listen to every song ever created on your phone, and yeah, you can. Sure. But when you do, you're not really listening to the music. The music is there, but it's sort of the soundtrack for all the other stuff you're doing on your phone. When you listen to music on your phone, you can't give it your full attention. There's too much other stuff that creeps in, whether it's email, Twitter, Facebook, Insta. If you have a YouTube channel, you're thinking Social Blade, Creator Studio, blah, 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 blah. 101 things can take away your attention. You can't give anything your full attention on your phone. There's a whole generation of people who have grown up with their phones as the main hub of their lives, and maybe they've never given their full attention to any one thing the way previous generations did with music. We just don't do that anymore. The last time we did, it was with an iPod. When I think of it that way, I recognize a connection between the Apple of today, with the too many products and not particularly doing well with any of them, having a lot of problems and issues and that kind of thing, in an oversaturated market where their products no longer fill a need. They run on a schedule, reappearing every year to fill the balance sheet. But do we need a new phone every year? Magic 8 Ball says no. Apple needs the simplicity of the iPod again. One device that served one purpose, and it did it so well you couldn't believe you'd ever lived without it. People say that Apple has lost its mojo. If there was ever an Apple product that encapsulated Apple mojo, the simple yet brilliant reimagining of the everyday, it was the iPod. Tim Cook, if you're out there, think about this. The iPod was the best that Apple ever was. And when it ceased to fill the profit margins, you stopped making it. A lot of what you've done since has been in the interest of those profit margins and not the people who use your products. The iPod worked because it was simple and yet so profound in how it changed people's lives. There's nothing about Apple that's simple and profound anymore. So I ask you, please, bring back the iPod Classic, if for no other reason than to remind yourself, remind the whole company of what made Apple, Apple. Simple, yet profound. That's what we lost when we lost the iPod.